Hi, everyone, and thank you for watching On Call for All Kids. Today, we'll be talking about best practices for passenger safety. We'll talk about whether or not the roads have become safer during the pandemic, clarify true or false statements about car seat and passenger safety, and how you can schedule a virtual car seat check. I'm joined by Petra Viverlova. She is the supervisor of Safe Kids Coalition at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. And we love seeing you, Petra. And this is actually great timing because September is National Child Passenger Safety Awareness Month, which is great.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you for having me. This is such an awesome time to discuss this topic.
Always a wonderful topic to talk about and definitely timely. So what are we seeing on the roads right now? Has it actually become safer? Because we're thinking during the pandemic, more of us are at home, so less people on the roads. Is it safer out there?
So that was one interesting trend that we've been seeing because intuitively you would think less people are driving, there must be less car accidents, right? But the trend that we've seen according to the report from the National Safety Council is that while people are driving less, the fatalities are on a rise. And this has been observed during several months, including March, June, July, etc. So for mile driven, we are seeing more fatalities, and it could be for multiple reasons. And one of them could be maybe people do have the false sense of security and they might be going faster or not buckling up.
Well, today we want to go over some tips and reminders for parents, especially when it comes to their kids, how to keep them safe in the car. There can be a lot of misconceptions, and maybe people think they're doing things right when actually it's incorrect. So let's do some true false statements and see some of the answers to these things. So how about this first one, Petra? My child can be front facing after their first birthday.
Oh, this is false. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends keeping children rear facing as long as their car seat allows, meaning look at the height and weight, which is stated on both the label and the manual, and it will tell you when you can turn your child around. So when they outgrow the weight and height limit of the seat.
So here is another one. I have to turn them around when their feet touch the back of the vehicle seat. Some parents maybe think, oh, my child is uncomfortable or their legs are not going to be feeling right.
And this is so false also. And we hear this all the time. Great question, Ashley. So having the feet touch the back of the vehicle seat is not actually a safety issue. Again, go by the weight or height limit, either on the seat or in the manual. And if the kid fits, you can keep them that way.
How about this one? Using both lower anchors and the seatbelt will make the car seat safer.
Oh, another famous one. It's also false. Most manufacturers recommend using either lower anchors or the seatbelt. Typically not both. And I use typically not both because there are a couple of manufacturers that allow using both. So read that manual throughout to make sure you have it properly restrained.
And how about the seat belt is as safe as the lower anchors?
So this one is true. So there might be a misconception that the lower anchors have been developed to make the child's seats safer. However, they were developed for ease of use, and therefore you can still use the seat belt instead of the lower anchors. This is especially important when you are installing the car seat in, let's say, middle seating position, and your car may have outboard positions only for the lower anchors. So if you install in the center seating position with the seat belt, your baby is equally as safe, or your child.
Right. My child is 4 and 30 pounds, so they can move to a booster seat now.
Oh, that's another false. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends at least 4 years old and 40 pounds. So it's not either or. So we do not really want them moving into that booster seat before either one of those benchmarks. And also one of the things that we always talk about is look at their maturity level. So while they might be 40 pounds and 4 years old, do not move them in the booster seat if they're like a wiggle worm and like to move around, because they will find that newfound freedom because the seatbelt will allow them to move. 5-point harness is always safer. And again, keep it as long as the weight or height limit allows.
Next one, Petra. Booster seats do not need to be used.
So this one is false, and it is true. So booster seats do not have to be used. This is the true comment. If your child is around that 4 feet 9 inches mark, and we want the seat belt to go over their collarbone, go around the hips or upper thighs, their knees have to be able to bend against the vehicle seat, around the vehicle seat, and their feet have to touch the ground. And all of these things have to happen when they're sitting upright with their back touching the vehicle seat. So the reason why we don't want this is if they're slouching because they are trying to bend the knees around the vehicle seat, is that will move the seat belt around their stomach, which can lead to pretty severe internal or spinal injuries, or it will move the seat belt up to the neck, which in that case, it is a false statement. If the seat belt is touching the neck or the stomach, let's move them back into the booster seat till they are ready to move into the seat belt.
How about my child can sit up in the front seat at age 12?
This one is another false statement. However, there is labeling that is talking about through the age of 12, meaning when they hit their 13th birthdays. But many drivers read it as children should be sitting in there or could be sitting in there 12 years on. So the manufacturers actually changed the labeling. So always follow that label on that visor or some in your manual to make sure the child is safe in that front seat. Also, we want to look at maturity of their bones, typically around 13 years of age. That's when their bones are mature enough to withstand the crash of the airbag against their body, and therefore they're safer sitting in the front than they would be before.
That makes sense. Last one, now that school started up, many kids are back in regular school. It's okay to wear a backpack, once they're picked up, get in the car with their seatbelt on. Is that okay?
Oh, this is another favorite. It is false. It is not okay to have the backpack on. We don't want them leaning forward because the backpack doesn't allow them to have the back against the vehicle seat. That will put them in the wrong position in a crash. There would be too much movement of the upper body, making it very, very unsafe. So take that backpack off, put that seatbelt on, and sit up straight.
And Petra, what can we do right now as parents? A lot of this is overwhelming, between car seats when they're an infant to booster seats, and are they big enough? It's great to have professionals like you to really get that sound, solid advice to make sure we're doing it right. What can we do as a parent right now to make sure our kids are as safe as they can be when they're traveling?
So we are offering virtual car seat checks, meaning it's kind of similar to a FaceTime appointment with two technicians, so we can both see the car seat maybe from a couple of different angles. We like to have two sets of eyes. We like to schedule it with the family, and we check their car seat or look over their car seat virtually, meaning they will be taught to install that car seat correctly and use it correctly every time via a virtual appointment where we are keeping everybody safe. Secondly, if we have families who are unable to obtain a car seat for a regular cost, we do have a program for centered individuals that we distribute car seats for donations, and all of this can be set up by calling the 727-767-7835.
Fantastic. And Petra, you said this really empowers parents because they're having to do it themselves, so then they really feel confident about it.
Absolutely. We had such a great success with this. They feel like they really mastered the task of the car seat, and it's so empowering, and they're typically so grateful for this, even though they sweat it in 100 degrees.
That's very true. Well, fantastic. Petra, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all this great, really critical information.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all so much for watching today. If you have any topics or ideas you would like us to look into, you can comment below right here on this video. And you can also visit our website. It's hopkinsallchildrens.org/newsroom. You'll find patient stories and other great pediatric healthcare resources there as well. Thanks for watching. See you next week.